Let's give a big round of applause to our next storyteller. Everyone, welcome Yev Kane.
Thank you. So, guys, you remember that time when the country was headed for the economic collapse? Not there yet, but was headed that way, and we had been like fruitlessly fighting in Afghanistan for some years now, and the party that was presiding over this mess was about to swept out of power. You know, remember that time? Now I was an optimist. I looked out the window one of those days. It was New Year's Eve actually, and I thought, I'm so lucky to live in this country because out there's so many people in the world who live and suffer under the yoke of capitalism. In case you haven't guessed, this country, my country, was the Soviet Union, and the year was 1990. Okay, yeah, so I have to relive all of that shit again. But back then, you know, well, the adults, like my parents, have long been disillusioned with the Soviet Union. Like like my parents' passports, the Soviet passports, actually said Jewish in them, which meant they couldn't like get the education or the jobs that they could have otherwise gotten. And whether it said Jewish or not in your passport, like everyone had to stand in line for everything, like toilet paper, okay? And you're not staying in line for Charmin, you understand? This is like sandpaper quality. Which, like, you could just use sandpaper, except you can't because you have to stand in line for that too. There's no way to be persistent. But like for kids like me, it was great. Like we were brought up on like patriotic war movies and Olympic game wins and all of that. And so that New Year's, I remember I was like, I asked Grandfather Frost for a new red tie. Grandfather Frost is just like Santa Claus, except his companion was this like hot 20-year-old in a fur miniskirt. That's how Russians roll. When Frost turned 30, he has to leave. And the reason I asked him for a new red tie was because I had just been inducted into the Red Pioneers. And that was like a big moment in my life. I was so proud that I wore my Red Pioneer tie on the outside of my coat. And by the time I got home, I lost it. And I was so upset because, like, it was the only that's when I felt I became a citizen. You know, it was the only expression of citizenship. I couldn't vote because I was young, and like the only thing more useless than voting in the Soviet Union was like voting in D.C. So I felt like I made it. And the pioneers, by the way, the pioneers were like Boy Scouts, except the ties were red. And instead of like tying knots or helping people, we greeted party delegations. Okay, that was our job. So one day, this is like beginning of '91, we were waiting at a podium, kind of like this, sort of getting ready to present flowers to like the party pack over there. And my friend Vadim, who was the first in line, and I, like, we got into a scuffle, and somehow I like tore out the head of his red carnation. And it was time to go up on stage, so he went up and kind of like shoved the stem of a carnation into this confused like face of a party guy and ran off. And our teacher came up to us after that and said, "You have embarrassed us in front of the entire Soviet Union." And Vadim is still like talking about this in therapy, but I felt embarrassed and like guilty about that. So I felt partially responsible when the Soviet Union like collapsed. And I found myself like a citizen of a whole new country, Ukraine. Lots of things. The anthem changed since it's like a musical theme. I won't sing it for you, but the Soviet anthem, first line was the unbreakable union of free republics is forever united by mighty Russia. The first line of the Ukrainian anthem is, Ukraine is not dead yet. All true. And it's like more truthful, you know, like at least 3 times more truthful. But somehow like less comforting, you know? And it is like by miracle that Ukraine is not dead yet. I don't have time for all those stories, but let me just put it to you this way. You know how 90s were awesome for you guys? Like some guy who got a blowjob from an intern, like, you know? It was awesome because you won. Now, that's how not awesome life was for us. Because we lost. And so everyone who could leave left. Like our red ties actually got exported to China by some enterprising new capitalists, because that's where they could still be used and they could pay for them, you know. And my family got like exported ourselves out to the U.S. And so fast forward to '99, I'm sitting there in a waiting room of a big government office building in Boston, and I had just passed a citizenship test and just waiting for some paperwork. And out of the interview room comes this just clearly mentally disabled guy, and he's waving like an American flag and like a stick to which it was attached just like moments prior, and he's grinning and he's like grunting and he's all happy, and all I could think of was like, wow, this is like Vadim with his pen sort of stumbling on stage. And before I could get embarrassed for this guy, the whole waiting room just erupted in applause and cheer, and they got up and like everyone was clapping, and as cynical as I was, I thought that room like made the United States proud that day. And that's when I felt I became a citizen for the second time in my life. Thank you.